Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
Okay, thanks for joining us on the Smart Property Investment Show. Pleasure to have you with us today. It's getting cold outside in the depths of winter now, which is my favourite season. Surf's pretty good during the winter months in Sydney, and it's also a good time to start looking at property as well. So when you look at the shifting sands of Australia's property market, irrespective of where you are, there's a lot of doom and gloom at the moment in terms of property prices, and there is definitely a softening in the market right across Australia, except for, I would argue, Tasmania, which just seems to keep booming along. But is it a good time to be investing in property? My answer would be yes. If you're ready, you can afford it, you're right to go, you understand the challenging lending environment that we are operating within, and potentially a rising rate environment in the years ahead. So you need to be informed, you need to be educated, and therefore that's the reason I hope you're listening to the Smart Property Investment Show. It's the reason why our guest today, Mark Shearwood, listens. He's an avid property investor, lives and breathes property, long-time listener of the Smart Property Investment Show, first-time guest. How you going, Mark? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
What do you reckon about property at the moment? Does it make you nervous, or you're fired up about it?
No, not at all. I'm very excited about it. It's my passion, so it's very good for me. I do very well out of it, so I'm excited.
Today, I want to chat about your story, how you ended up in property and what sort of stuff you buy, why you're buying, your goals and objectives in investing in property. But just on my point just then around the softening market, what are you seeing from your side of the fence? Are you worried about price decline? Are you worried about a period of no growth, or that's just part of the game?
Property is a long-term investment. It's not a short-term investment, so you're not going to make millions of dollars in a couple of years unless you do developments or so forth. But I'm very much a buy and hold. I don't sell ever. So all of the stuff that I've bought was specifically bought to hold forever. So I've structured it like that, and because as soon as you sell, you miss out on the capital gains that you're going to get going forward. So I don't sell. So I don't really care if it goes up or goes down. I know that it's going to go up, and so I just stay in there.
Okay, and we'll chat about that in a sec around why you think property's going up, and I imagine that's the sort of assets that you're buying. But what's the backstory before you getting into property, Mark? So we're recording in Sydney right now. Are you a Sydney boy, or are you from somewhere else in Australia?
Well, originally I was from Melbourne.
Okay.
I grew up in Melbourne, but I hate Melbourne. So I got out of there pretty quick. I moved to Perth, and I lived in Perth for 3.5 years, and I moved to Sydney. And then in 2000, I moved to Bangkok, and I stayed there for 4 years, and then I moved back in 2004.
Okay, and the trip to Bangkok, it's a great place up there. It's
wonderful.
Nice to get away, and 4 years, that was a long period of time. Did you use that as a period to consider investing in property, or was it in your mind back then?
No, it wasn't actually, because I had a bit of a rocky road from probably 18, from the age of 18 to when I went to Bangkok. So I was I didn't have a firm. I was sort of in and out of jobs and things like that, so it wasn't stable for me. And then when I came back in 2004, that's when everything just kicked in for me.
Did something click, did it?
Yeah, it did, big time. Yeah, and it was here in Sydney, where it happened. Oh yeah, big time.
And what, can you look back and remember the point where things started sort of going your way?
It was after that. I just realised that I had to do something, and I just knew that it couldn't go on like this, and I had to make massive changes, and I did.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that's when I started to investigate real estate. I mean, I was a real estate agent in Perth for 3.5 years, from 91 to 94, and I sort of, liked what I did, but I don't know. And I bought a property over there, and I bought a place in Bicton, down near Fremantle, and it had good growth. I bought it for like $30,000, but the problem is I didn't know anything about real estate at that stage, and I sold it halfway through the boom, at 74. If I had kept it now, it's, at the height of the boom, when Perth was booming, it was worth about 300. It was a unit. So, it was, you make mistakes, and that's okay,
Is that where you sort of develop this buy and hold strategy? Don't sell real estate if you can avoid it.
Yeah, and I just don't believe in selling. I just don't believe in selling. If you buy it, and you do stuff to it, just keep it. It doesn't. I mean, I don't buy negatively geared properties. So everything that I buy is positive because we're not in it to lose money. We're in it to make money. So all of my stuff is positive. So if it's making money and it's looking after itself, then just keep it. That's my thing.
And before we come on air, Mark told me the size of his portfolio, and he doesn't really want to chat about how big it is on air, and that's cool. But it is a considerable portfolio, which has got both units and houses in it. Is that right, Mark?
Yeah, it's got 2 units and the rest are houses.
And the rest are houses,
Yep.
okay. And what's the sort of geographic spread of your portfolio? Are you in what states?
Victoria, New South Wales and Brisbane.
Okay.
And Queensland, yeah.
And so you bought your first property outside of the Perth one back in 2004, 2005. Is that when you got your first property here?
Yeah, the first property was here in Sydney. It was a unit in Sydney that I bought. It was in Croydon Park,
Okay.
and it's a shitty little place. It's really old and terrible. The vendor was desperate to sell, and he had it on for $199, and I bought it for $185.
Good.
And he did that pretty quickly. It's really small. It's 46 square metres, so it's really, really, really tiny. 2 bedroom.
Yeah.
So we actually moved the coffee. I actually lived there for quite some time, and I had to move the coffee table every time someone would come in and out the front door. That's how small it is.
Yeah.
So it's tiny, but it's giving good rent, and it's had great growth, and it was a great starter.
That's good, and got you into the market. So what sort of work were you doing when you went through this buying spree of property?
I was working in the construction industry, but I didn't work on the tools.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked in the office.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess during this period of time, you were able to secure financing to keep investing in property. Is that how you went through it? Did you recycle your deposit, or did you raise a new deposit each time you purchased something?
I just used the equity of the properties.
Yeah.
And just went on because that gave me good growth. Then I was able to buy another one in Penshurst. That gave me enormous growth.
It would have.
Yeah, and then after that, I just kept on going interstate. And,
That's cool.
Yeah.
And why are you doing this? Why are you investing in property? What's the long term goal?
Well, because I don't work and I mentor students now and I have my own thing going, but I didn't want to work, basically. I it's not that I'm lazy. I just didn't want to go in at 8:30 and go home at 5:30 and all that, and I just I didn't like all that. So I needed to make income to be able to support my lifestyle because I travel a lot. I go overseas a lot, and like a few days ago, I just got back from Las Vegas and Mexico. So I travel a lot, and I wanted to have that lifestyle, but I didn't want to necessarily go into a job to get it.
So freedom then.
Yeah, it was free. It's freedom. Yeah, it's freedom to do what I want. Yeah, it's great.
How often would you travel every year now?
Oh, I travel to Asia maybe 5 or 6 times a year. In the last 6 months, I suppose I've been away 4 times overseas.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And all financed off your property
Of course.
portfolio?
Yeah.
Wow. So
yeah.
essentially paid you a salary?
Yeah. No, it's doing very, very well.
Wow. So you're essentially retired?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm retired, but I also, like I say, I mentor people. I have a website, and I do that part time. Well, not part time, full time. And I also do options as well. So I buy development sites.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have some people working for me, and they're in Sydney and Brisbane, and they find the sites, and they do the letters, and then I do all the dealings and negotiations with them.
And then what, you sell it off to a developer prepackaged with a DA and stuff? Or?
It depends. Some of the stuff that's coming up through now, I'm going to finance through money partners and things, and some of them I'm just going to flick the option. It just depends on the investment. It depends on the people I'm working with,
Yeah.
So.
And you make good money doing that?
Well,
Can do.
I've just done one. I'm just putting one together at the moment in Sydney, near Liverpool, and that is, I'm getting that to option stage, and I've already got a buyer for that for $200,000.
Okay.
So if I do 2 of those a year, I think I'll be okay.
That's all right. You can live off that quite happily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the thing is, if the portfolio is going to a certain stage, This is just cream on top of that, you know.
It's good. And when you travel, do you travel well? Do you sort of...
Yeah, it's all business. Well, no, it's not all business, but it's probably more than 60% business.
So you're not penny pinching, staying in backpackers, you're in
No
nice
way.
hotels and all that sort of stuff?
No, stay at really nice places.
Wow, that's like a pretty reasonable lifestyle.
It's okay, but,
Yeah.
you know, people... Yeah, well, people look at me and say I'm lucky, but I'm not lucky.
So you've worked hard for this, right?
I had to plan this. It was a strategic plan, and I had to work out how to do it. And, you know, when I looked at the statistics of actually what I had to do to get there, I found out that when you have a look at the statistics, you'll find that 80% of people that actually get into property only own one property.
Yeah.
So it's scary, you know, and you can't retire on one property, you know. So I needed to work out ways that I could generate faster exit strategy for me with a higher, more income.
So did you sit there at a point in time and say, I'm going to go and build a big portfolio to generate this amount of income so I don't have to do a 9-to-5 job? Was that a very deliberate process? Did you say I need to buy property here,
Yes,
or has been a
yes.
bit of luck in there as well?
No, I had to. I knew what I was buying. Yeah, I knew what I was buying. And, you know, when I went into some of these properties, you know, a lot of people say, oh, my God, what are you buying there for? Are you serious? But now they look and they go, oh, okay. And even now people say to me, like, I've got 5 properties in a country town in Victoria called Nil out at Horsham, and that place down there, I mean, there's 2,200 people there. You know, there's not much happens there, but you know what? The economy is absolutely amazing. The unemployment level is like 2%. Where the national is 5.5 or something. So I knew what I was doing, and the growth has been incredible for that. I bought some houses in there I bought my first one in there for $81,000.
Okay.
You know, so and it was getting $200 a week in rent. You know,
How much debt are you carrying on all your properties at the moment? As from an LVR perspective, what sort of gearing would there be?
I owe just under $1 million.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you looking to pay that down? Is that...
Yeah, I'll use the options in the next 3 years to pay that down. So that's what I'm willing to do, and then I'm willing to grow I want to grow the portfolio from about September, October next year. I want to buy more into Brisbane.
Okay, that's good. And in terms of financing then, when you do that next round of buying, will it be financing through the banks or you go to some other sort of lenders? Like, where would you get your financing from?
Oh, it'll be through banks.
Yeah.
But there are some of the houses in my portfolio that I've just bought for cash.
Yeah.
You know, before. But yeah, it'll be through lenders. I'm looking. It's a bit difficult now because I don't work and I don't have a job.
Yeah.
You know, the banks won't give me money.
Yeah.
So it's a bit hard. So what I need to do, I need to be a bit tricky and smart. So what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to use the options and then just buy the Brisbane property, maybe 50-60% deposit or something.
Okay.
You know, it's the only way I can do it, really.
Yeah. And how do you go about managing your portfolio? Do you use property managers for everything?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've got really good ones because one of them I keep, the one in Nil, I keep in contact with her like I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times a week because she's got so many properties to look after and she's, you know, but the other ones just continue to evolve and they're pretty good. Otherwise they'll be gone. You know, it's hard to find a good property manager.
Yeah, it is. And once you get one, you want to stay with them.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And they should be able to provide you good advice as well around pushing up your rent or decreasing it or keeping in line with the market. With the management of your portfolio, how do you do that? Do you find a bit of time every single week to sit down and assess it, or is it something that's always in the back of your mind?
Well, I use the Right Property Group's Excel.
Okay.
Right, so I use that, and every month as the statements come in, I just top all that up, so I know where I'm at, and I know what kind of income that I'm getting.
Okay.
So that's pretty live because I don't think a lot of people do that. You know, they just buy it and they just sit there, and you know, I don't think a lot of people really know whether they're positive or negative. You know, with all the fees that happen, not just the council rates. I mean, all of the fees. So I try to keep a good handle on it so that I know.
And how do you, from an administration perspective, do you have a different bank account for every property? Or
yeah, I do.
is it,
and I've got different banks as well set up.
Okay.
So I don't have just one bank. I've set it up. It's quite tricky the way I set it up. And well, what I did was I don't believe in interest only, so that's one thing. I go P&I. But what happened was I was building down in Nil, and I've just finished. I've got to go in there tomorrow actually to pick up the keys for a new property down there. But when I had this construction loan, they wanted to go interest only. So I did that for a while, and what happened was I poured the extra money, because it's so positively geared, I poured the extra money out of that straight off the principal of all of the other properties. So it paid down the principal, so that was quite smart. And then now, of course, I'm just using that money to live and stuff.
That's cool. So, yeah, I speak to a lot of investors, but it seems you got this pretty wide. You know what's going on. It's
Thank you.
You enjoy it, obviously.
The thing is, when I got to rock bottom, because in 2004, the whole story is when I came back to Australia in 2004, I had no money, right? And I was $12,500 in debt, and I had the bank on my back to pay them the money, and I had no job. And when I came back, I went to the Bondi markets, and I had all these things from Thailand, like cushions and Buddhas and all that. And I thought I was going to make $1 million. And I set up this stall, and 5 minutes after setting up this stall, the rain came, and it just and I couldn't believe it. And I didn't have enough money to get on the boat and the bus to go back home. So the lady at the stall next door had to lend me $10 to go on the true story. And when I was sitting on the bus, that's when the aha moment came in, That's when and I thought, I'm never, ever, 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 ever going to be in this situation again. And then I tried to, I researched real estate, and I thought, okay, so it gives you a passive income. What do I need to do? And then I started to read all the books, and I started to go to all the seminars. Like the seminars, I was going to like 3 or 4 seminars a week. For 2 or 3 years, just educating myself, And I just continued to do that until I found shortcuts to build the portfolio.
So what you're talking about there is your investment in your knowledge. And to build a portfolio which seems to be working quite well, it doesn't happen by chance or by accident. You've spent years educating yourself. So when a lot of people go, oh, you're really lucky, well, they don't know the hard work that you've done. And unless you're willing to do the hard work, you're never really going to be successful as a property investor, I believe. How did you sort of keep your spirits and your morale up during that period of time of just 3 to 4 seminars, research? You're working at that point in time, were you?
I was.
In construction.
Yeah, I was.
Were you busy all the time? Like it sounds like a pretty full on.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah,
I was. But you know what? It was a passion for me. It really is. It's become a real passion for me. And I want people to succeed as well. So I talk about it a lot, and it was really important for me. And the more I get into it, the more I love it.
Yeah. So what is it about property that you really love, though? Is it the fact that you can create this lifestyle that you've created? Is that the thing that you really like? Or is it getting people to maybe realign their direction in life and take control and improve their situation? What is it?
Yeah, it is. It's all that. I find a passion in when I mentor people as well, and because I like to see where they've come from and where they want to go, because I think that like a lot of them want to get there, but they don't have a plan. They don't have a strategic plan in how to get there, and I did. And I knew exactly what I was going to do, because when I started out, I was working. When I was working, I had an income of $60,000, so it wasn't a lot of money. People think everyone in property's got a lot of money. I had $60,000 when I started. So, and it's possible. It's really possible, and I'm passionate about that. I'm passionate about helping people from low incomes to get to the high incomes, but it's a little bit of a mindset as well.
Yeah, it is.
You have to know that where you're going to go, and you have to change the way you do it and stuff.
And that's it for a lot of people, it's that realisation. If you're on a low income, it doesn't need to be an inhibitor for you to create wealth, and it's about dedication, it's about sacrifice.
It's about thinking outside the square.
Yeah.
Like I watched that show, there was that show on TV last night, what was it called, about them finding the houses for you? And there was a couple on there, and they were, we can't find a house, and it's no good. But you got to think outside the square.
Yeah.
It might not be in the area where you want to live, but you need to get into the game somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere you need to start.
Well, the thing is that if you can't buy the house where you want to buy it, you rent there for a period of time, and make sure your money's working for you somewhere else, at least in some property market where it's generated, or any other asset class. But
exactly,
property is a great because of the power of leverage, property is a great enabler that if you do invest well, you can amplify your returns
Absolutely.
reasonably quickly. But then again, if you invest in the wrong place, you can be stuck for life. And to your point around this 80%, I can't remember the exact number, but of people who only ever own one investment property, typically it's because they bought the wrong investment property.
Yes, absolutely.
This is it.
Absolutely. Or it's negatively geared and they can't afford to keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I said, all of mine are positive. I wouldn't even look at a negatively geared property. Or it'd have to be, you'd have to manufacture it in a way that it became positive. You know, so it's very important.
And how do you feel about paying tax on positively geared properties? Is that just the...
I don't mind paying tax. The more tax I pay, the more money I earn. I don't care.
So that's a
Bring
good
it on.
attitude. A lot of people sort of,
Yep.
you know, I think as income generating Australians, we've got to pay our fair share of tax. So it's good that you say that. It's nice. Mark, I really enjoyed the chat. That's 25 minutes gone really quickly.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's good.
You talk about sort of chatting with other property investors who might be new to this journey. What's your key tip to them as a takeaway?
Definitely education, 100%. You know, and read the magazines, go to the seminars. You got to remember that, all these seminars that are run at these hotels and stuff, 90% of them are trying to sell you something, and you got to think that's okay. It doesn't matter. But you're always going to learn something. Yeah. Always. It doesn't matter what it is. I always learnt at least one or two things. Every seminar I walked away with, like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay, and then you'd research that and go, oh, okay, I can see that, and all that. Like rent vesting. Who knew about rent vesting 10 years ago? So, I rent vest. But all these kind of things, you just look into it, how's that going to work for me? Okay, well, but it's about developing a strategy. You need a strategy, and everyone's strategy is different because everybody has different incomes, everyone wants to live different lifestyles. It just depends on what you want, what's better for you, and then you leverage it, and you have to work out a plan.
Great. Really appreciate you sharing your story, Mark, and it sounds as though that story's still in process, still being told, and you'll have to let us know and keep connected with us. Thanks for coming on. It's been a while since we first met, but you mentioned you're going to go buy some more place up in Brisbane.
I want to do
why
that.
Brisbane? What do you like about Brisbane?
Oh, Brisbane's amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's like a volcano. Like what happened to the Gold Coast. I think that's what's going to happen to Brisbane. It's just bubbling away. And it's just, look, you got to look at the logistics of it all and the economics of it all, right? When you sit down and you studied it, there's no other way. Brisbane has to explode. It just has to, because a person on $60,000 or $80,000 in Sydney or Melbourne, well, definitely Sydney, can't afford to live here anymore. They just can't afford to live here. And the same thing's going to happen in Melbourne in 2 or 3 or 5 years. They just won't be able to live there. So they're going to have to move up there, and all the infrastructure, everything what the government are doing, it's mountains and mountains of things that they're doing to improve that city, and improve it. And they've got more. They can go wider. Sydney can't go anywhere because it's bounded by national parks and that. So Melbourne can go a little bit, but Melbourne's getting unaffordable now. So for a person on $60,000 to $80,000, Brisbane is a very good opportunity.
You can live a lot better up there. Well, let's hope so. Let's hope Brisbane does something, because we've got a fair bit of investment property up there.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Waiting.
Yeah,
hopefully,
waiting.
Hopefully in 5 years' time, I'm sitting and going, why didn't I buy more in Brisbane when I could have? I'm not buying in Brisbane at the moment.
Real estate's never been cheap.
Yeah.
Right? Real estate's never been cheap. And you think about your mum and dad, right? If it was cheap, they would have bought 10 in a row. Wouldn't have bought one.
Yeah.
So, real estate's never been cheap.
Yeah, and back to this story, people who in it researching, what would be your tip to them if they start wavering from the journey and it gets too hard and they can't get any wins, or they can't buy something, or all these roadblocks that come up in front of people? How do you navigate around them?
Well, it's always good to have a coach, I think. Even though they might cost you a couple of dollars, it's always good because they keep you motivated.
Yeah.
You've got to be motivated about this. You've got to see the end goal.
Yeah.
And I always did, and I always, okay, that's what I need to do. And I'm a bit anal, because I when I get the blinkers on, that's it. Nothing gets in my way. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Like I was working 3 jobs to get my first property. Wow. So I just thought, there's nothing getting. I'm just going to do this. I'm really going to do this. You've got to think about that, and it's easy to get sidetracked. But there's many times that I haven't gone out for dinner, or I could afford to do this, but I decided not to, and stuff. Just to get to where I am. So just eye on the goal, eye on the prize. because it will come. If you do the right investments, it will come. It definitely will come.
So what you're talking about there is essentially short-term pain and sacrifice for long-term gain. And a lot of people don't really see the world that way. But you need to do it tough at some point, I believe, to amplify your ability to have a better life moving forward. And that's the secret, I think, between people that just get by and people who are successful. They, if you've got 10 years of hard graft ahead of you, and you can stay the course and you understand where you're going, and irrespective of the hurdles or challenges put in front of you, you can move around them or jump over them. Eventually, it sort of sorts itself out. Was there a point for you where you just went, oh, hang on a second, things are sort of better now? Was it sort of did you get to a point and realise that, or was it just a slow burn to just improvement of life?
No, that definitely happened. But life is really funny because people, people go through life and this is a long journey. It's not a short journey. So you meet a lot of people and they say to you, oh, if only I had a girlfriend. Oh, things would be great if only I had a girlfriend. And then they get a girlfriend and there's another goal. It's like being a millionaire. Oh, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be, and when you get there, you think, oh, there's nothing much about this, and then you go on to the next goal. So you're always evolving and you're always changing and you're always, it's always growing. It's the goals change. It's about what you do in the meantime. It's the happiness that you have in the meantime. Yeah. Enjoy what you've made. Enjoy what you've made. Enjoy the amount of properties that you have, or whatever, or the income, or whatever you want to look at it. But enjoy what you have now.
Have you ever had a reverse serendipitous moment of when you think back of coming back from Bondi markets with your broken Buddhas and sitting there thinking, this is as bad as it gets? Have you had the reverse of that, where you're sitting at the pointy end of a plane, sitting there thinking, hang on a second, this is all right? Well,
it's a bit all right now. Actually, it's a bit right now, but I'm always striving now, So I'm looking for my next development deal, my next, I'm always looking ahead, because it's a bigger picture. It's more comfortable now, but it's better now. Like before, you had the doom and gloom, and you didn't know how to get out of it. Now I'm in a situation where I'm actually quite financially stable, and now it's the time to really explode and grow.
Great.
So people learn, people change,
Nice one. Mark Shearwood, I've enjoyed having a chat with you, and keep it up. It's a great story, and thanks for sharing it with us.
Thanks very much.
Remember to check out smartpropertyinvestment.com.au if you're not yet subscribing to our daily morning newsletter, so you're the first to know what's happening in property. Get the jump on the rest of Australia. smartpropertyinvestment.com.au/subscribe. Alternatively, social media. Like us, follow us, love us, all that sort of stuff. We're pretty active there, so just search Smart Property HQ and get connected. Remember, please do keep those reviews coming on iTunes or wherever else you're listening to this podcast. The team here really do appreciate it, and we want to keep growing this community. So share what your thoughts are. Mark's a fan of it, and it's great to get people on the show who are listeners of the Smart Property Investment Show. It's really good. Anyway, we'll be back again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.